Story 1. Oliver came back. Psst. Hey,
You ever had an imaginary friend when you were little? Most people shrug that off.
oh, just childhood make-believe, they say. Kids are weird, right?
But sometimes it's more than that. I had one. His name was Oliver. He wore a red scarf no matter the season, and his eyes his eyes were too big for his face. Not cartoonish, not silly, just wrong, like they were watching too much. But when I was 6, none of that bothered me. He was just my buddy.
We'd play hide and seek, tell stories under the covers, whisper secrets I don't even remember anymore. My parents thought he was cute. Typical only child stuff.
They even played along sometimes.
But then things got
weird. Oliver didn't like visitors. I had a cousin sleep over only once.
That night, she woke up screaming, said something bit her in the dark, something cold and whispery. Her parents blamed a bad dream.
She never stayed again. I stopped talking about Oliver after that. He didn't go away, exactly.
He just stopped showing up when others were near.
I'd hear his breathing under my bed, or see the red scarf in my closet.
He got quieter, sulkier. Then, one day, he was just gone. I grew up, moved out.
Life rolled on. I didn't think about Oliver again until last year. I was 32, living alone in a tiny apartment in Chicago. A breakup, some job burnout, and general city gloom had me feeling like I was hollowed out.
Then one night, after a long day, I came home to find the door slightly ajar. I knew I'd locked it that morning.
Inside, everything was untouched, silent, still,
except
on the floor by my couch, neatly folded, was a red scarf. I didn't move for almost 10 minutes.
I just stood there, keys in hand, staring at it. A rush of old feelings hit me once I hadn't felt since I was a kid.
Like someone was behind me, just out of view, watching, breathing.
I tossed the scarf out and double-locked the door.
That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Over the next week, little things started happening. I'd hear tapping behind the walls at night.
Not pipes,
not neighbors.
tapping.
Rhythmic, like fingers. Things went missing. My socks, a photo of my parents, my toothbrush, and always, I'd find the red scarf again, folded neatly on my pillow.
Or curled around the doorknob. Once, I found it tied around my cat's neck like a noose. She wouldn't stop hissing at the closet after that. Then came the dreams. They weren't vivid nightmares, more like half-remembered whispers.
I'd wake up drenched in sweat. Sure, someone had been speaking to me.
Telling me things I didn't understand. Names I didn't recognize.
Places I'd never been. But the voice was familiar.
Childlike.
Hissing.
Playful.
Why did you leave me?
One night, I woke up to see him standing at the foot of my bed. Oliver. His limbs were too long now, like he'd stretched with time. His face still had that childish roundness, but something was warped, rotten. His eyes were huge and glassy, glinting in the dark, and his red scarf, it moved like it had a life of its own, slowly undulating as if underwater. He smiled. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. He leaned in close, his breath cold and wet against my ear.
I never left. You forgot me. When I could finally move, I bolted.
Slept in my car that night.
The next day, I called my mom. I asked her about Oliver, what she remembered.
She got quiet. Then she said something I'll never forget.
I always thought he was a real boy.
What? You used to say he came in from the woods, that he lived in the attic. And when your cousin got bitten, I found tiny footprints in the dust up there.
Bare feet.
But I thought maybe it was just your imagination running wild. Kids do that.
Right.
I moved out of the apartment the same week.
Left everything. I don't even live in the city anymore.
But he's still here.
I see signs. Wherever I go, he follows. The red scarf appears, always neatly folded, in my mailbox.
My freezer.
Once, coiled in my sock drawer like a sleeping snake. And sometimes, just as I'm falling asleep, I hear that whisper again. Wanna play?
He's not imaginary.
He never was.
I don't know what Oliver is, a spirit, a demon, a leftover shard of childhood madness, but he's real.
And now that I've remembered him,
he won't let me forget again.
So if you ever had a friend like that, a strange one, with rules and secrets, don't go digging into your past. Don't look in closets or under beds.
Don't answer the whispers, because once they know you remember, they come back.
And this time, they don't want to play.
They want to stay. Story 2. The corner of the room. Listen closely.
Not loud, he doesn't like loud. Just
Listen.
when I was little, I had trouble sleeping.
My parents thought it was normal childhood anxiety. Maybe too much sugar, too much screen time.
But the truth was simpler. I didn't want to sleep because he was in the corner.
I called him Mr. Pine. He wasn't a man, exactly. He was tall, yes, and thin like the trunk of a dying tree. But his face,
I could never see it clearly. It was always in shadow, even when the lights were on. Like the darkness followed him, like it belonged to him.
he stood perfectly still in the corner of my room.
Every night, always in the same spot, arms long and stiff at his sides. He never spoke at first, he just watched.
I'd scream, of course. I'd call for my parents.
They'd run in, flick on the lights, and perf nothing there.
Just a pile of toys or a shadow cast by a coat rack. But I knew he was real.
And eventually, he started to talk, always just as I was drifting off, half dreaming.
A voice like wind through broken glass, soft but jagged.
He whispered things a child shouldn't understand.
They won't believe you.
I was here before you. One day, you'll let me in.
Let him in. I never knew what that meant. I thought it was about my room. I'd pile things in the corner to block him, boxes, pillows, anything. But no matter what I did, he stood there.
Every night, never blinking, never breathing. And then one night, he was gone. Just gone. I remember waking up and feeling weirdly cold. Lighter, almost. Like a weight had lifted off my chest. I was 8. I didn't question it.
I just slept. Years passed. I chalked it up to imagination, like everyone said. I went to college.
Got a job, a girlfriend.
Life. You move on, right? But then, about a month ago, something happened. I was crashing at my childhood home. Staying in my old room while my apartment got fumigated. Nostalgic, kind of eerie, but fine. The first night, I felt.
Watched, brushed it off, stress. But then, in the middle of the night, I woke up.
And he was there.
Same spot.
Same posture. Same awful silence.
Mr. Pine. I thought my heart would explode.
I couldn't move, couldn't scream.
I was a child again, pinned under the weight of something ancient and wrong. He didn't speak at first, just stood.
Then, in that same glassy, serrated voice, he whispered,
I've been waiting. The next morning, I found 3 long black splinters on my pillow. Not wood, something darker.
Soggy almost. I threw them away. But he kept coming back.
Even when I returned to my own apartment, he followed me.
At first, just flashes in the mirror.
Glimpses in dark windows. The sound of something scratching behind the walls.
My girlfriend thought I was losing it. She left a week later.
And still, every night, he's in the corner, never moving, always closer. I started covering the corner with furniture, then mirrors, then salt and candles.
Nothing worked. He's there. He's always there. The worst part, he talks more now. He tells me things about people I love, secrets, ugly truths, things I was never supposed to know. And they're always right.
He told me what my father did when I was too young to remember.
He told me what my best friend did to his sister. He told me when my boss would die.
And he did a heart attack.
Exactly when Mr. Pine said it would happen. So now I sit in bed each night, staring into that corner, listening to the soft rasp of his voice slicing through my mind like eyes.
I haven't slept in days.
I can't eat. I can barely breathe.
And last night, he said it again. Let me in. But this time, he stepped forward. Just 1 foot. That's all.
But it moved. After all these years, he finally moved. And I don't know what happens when he gets to the bed. I don't know what it means. But I think he's always belonged to me. Or maybe I belong to him.
And I think tonight,
I might let him in. So if you wake up in the dark, and you feel something watching from the corner of your room, don't look. Don't move. Don't listen to the voice. Because once you hear him whisper your name, Mr. Pine never leaves. Story 3. The Mirror Boy. Do you ever glance in a mirror and think, just for a second, that your reflection isn't quite right? Like maybe it moved a little too slowly.
or smiled when you didn't. I used to think that was just my imagination, a trick of the light or a tired brain.
But not anymore. Not after what happened with the boy in the mirror. I first saw him when I was 5. My family had just moved into an old house with creaky stairs and antique fixtures, the kind of place that had character, as my MOM liked to say. My bedroom had this huge standing mirror, framed in black wood, carved with vines and tiny faces. Seriously creepy stuff. The first night I saw him, I was brushing my teeth. I looked up and there he was, standing behind me.
A boy, my age, pale skin, darker eyes than mine, hair hanging down over his forehead.
He wore clothes like mine, but
wrong.
A little old-fashioned, a little too clean. I turned around.
No one was there.
But when I looked back in the mirror, he was smiling. He became a regular visitor after that.
Always in the mirror, never in the room.
He'd copy my movements perfectly at first. Then, over time, he started to change.
Slight delays,
tilted head,
smiling too long, eyes unblinking. I told my parents, of course.
They smiled.
Your imaginary friend, what's his name? And without thinking, I answered, Simon. The thing is, I hadn't named him.
I knew his name.
Simon never spoke, but he didn't need to. He'd gesture, tap on the other side of the mirror,
wave. Once, I saw him mouth something.
I got real close, heart pounding. He mouthed, "Let me out."
I stopped looking in mirrors after that.
Covered the big one with a blanket. Avoided them in bathrooms, hallways, anywhere. When I had to look, I kept it quick.
When I turned 12, the mirror cracked right down the middle.
I came home from school and found the blanket on the floor. The glass split like a wound.
My parents said it must have been the heat warping the frame.
We threw it out. I thought Simon was gone for good. I was wrong.
Years passed.
I'm 29 now. Live alone.
I've got mirrors in my apartment. Of course, I'm not paranoid.
I wasn't. Until last Thursday. I was shaving. Normal morning.
Half awake. I looked in the mirror, and for the briefest second,
I saw him.
Simon.
Not a flash. Not a trick of memory. Him.
Older now.
Like me.
Same face.
Same age. Same. But not. And he smiled. This time, I didn't look away. I stared.
And slowly, he reached out with one finger and touched the inside of the mirror.
The glass rippled. Like water, I stumbled back. Heart racing. It didn't happen again that day, or the next.
I convinced myself I was overtired, hallucinating.
Until this morning. I woke up to find every mirror in my apartment uncovered. I never left them that way. In my bathroom, on the wall, written backward in what looked like condensation, was one sentence.
You said you'd play with me. I don't remember saying that.
But part of me wonders, did I promise him something all those years ago? In my sleep, in a whisper.
Was it a game?
A trade? Now, every time I walk past a mirror, I see movement when I shouldn't. Simon's faster now.
Closer to the surface. His reflection doesn't match mine anymore.
He grins when I'm blank-faced.
Turns his head when I'm still. Today, when I blinked, he didn't. I think he's waiting for something.
A moment. A crack. Maybe the glass doesn't need to break this time. Maybe I do. So take this as a warning.
If you had a mirror friend when you were little, someone who mimicked you too well, who smiled a second too long, don't brush it off.
Cover your mirrors. Break them if you have to. Because the longer you look, the more real they become.
And when they're real enough, they won't need the mirror anymore.